Fallout this morning from the first Democratic presidential debate. The candidates sparring on a host of hot-button issues, and Clinton aides privately calling the showdown the, quote, best day of their campaign. So they're feeling pretty positive about things. Hello, everybody. Hope you're after a great Wednesday so far. I'm Jen Elleithee.
And I'm John Scott. Hillary Clinton, the frontrunner, gets high marks for her debate performance as she clashed with her leading rival, Senator Bernie Sanders, there on the screen, over national security, the economy, and gun control, with the three lesser-known candidates joining Clinton and Sanders on stage for the first time. This all amid the growing speculation about Vice President Biden's plans for a White House run. Joining us now, Julie Roginski, former political advisor to Senator Frank Lautenberg and a Fox News contributor. Corey Elens is former communications advisor to President Obama. And Elleithee is former communications director for the Democratic National Committee and former senior spokesman for Hillary Clinton's 2008 campaign, also the executive director of Georgetown University's Institute for Politics and Public Policy. We have to shorten all of your titles so we can get to the discussion. Julie, did Hillary Clinton accomplish what she needed to do last night?
She did. She needed to do three things, and she accomplished them all very well. One, she needed to reassure a nervous Democratic base that she was not just in a defensive posture and a defensive crouch, but could carry the message into November, and she absolutely accomplished that. Two, she needed to reintroduce herself to America, because what America has seen since her rollout has been, as I said, a defensive crouch, and the fact that she's been filtered through media and through pundits like the rest of us. And three, she needed to send a message to Joe Biden that there was no room for him in the race, and I think she accomplished that as well.
Corey, the speculation, the general consensus of the media today, the day after the debate, is that Hillary Clinton won. Did she?
I think she did win the debate last night with the candidates who were on the stage. The thing for Clinton is she still needs to put forward a reason for her candidacy, other than the notion that she's a woman. She kind of leaned on that crutch a little bit too much last night. Other than that, obviously, she had a very crisp and clean performance. But what else would you expect from someone who is a former Secretary of State, former First Lady, and a former member of the United States Senate? So, yeah, she had a crisp, good performance, but there's more that needs to be done there. And we don't know that everybody who was on the stage is going to continue to be on the stage. So we'll see. Yeah,
you bring up a couple of interesting points there, and I'm going to get to those in a second. I want to start with a quotation from Bill Whelan. He writes for the Hoover Institution, a conservative group on the West Coast. And he writes this about the debate: 2.5 hours on a stage with a Vermont socialist and 3 statistical afterthoughts doesn't elevate Hillary Clinton's stature. If anything, it's a sad testament to the Democratic Party's bench strength, and therein lies the Democrats' problem. Hillary's the safest bet in this imperfect lot, really the Democrats' only bet. Mo, how do you respond to that?
I don't know what debate he watched, because if you watched last night's debate and you compared that to the Republican debates, I actually think you saw a substantive conversation last night as opposed to a circus on the other side. But let me say this about last night: each candidate needed to go in and focus on themselves. This was the first Democratic debate. They all needed to introduce themselves to the American people in a different way for different reasons. I actually think the top 3 candidates on that stage last night, Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, and Martin O'Malley, all did that, all did what they needed to do. Hillary did it the best. I think she needed to reassure, I think Julie hit the nail on the head, needed to reassure a lot of nervous Democrats, a lot of nervous supporters. I'm not sensing any nervousness amongst Hillary people today, Hillary supporters. There was a big sigh of relief. People are excited and re-energized about her. Bernie Sanders did what he needed to do in a lot of ways, though I think the gun exchange at the beginning was a pretty big stumble for him, and he now, but he regrouped later on. And Martin O'Malley even did himself some good last night. I don't know that he had a breakthrough moment, and he needs one soon. But I think a lot of people saw him last night, saw him as a serious person, as a serious candidate, and they'll give him a second look.
Let me ask your response to this question, and Mo, I think you touched on it. Actually, it was Corey who touched on it in the previous answer. I'm sorry. Let me play this sound, this exchange from the moderator to Hillary Clinton.
Secretary Clinton, how would you not be a third term of President Obama?
Well, I think that's pretty obvious. I think being the first woman president would be quite a change from the presidents we've had up until this point, including President Obama.
Julie, it was a substantive question. How do you avoid becoming an Obama third term? Did she pull out the sort of sexist card in answering it?
She obviously went through great debate prep that allowed her to answer that question in the way that she wanted and not in the way that Anderson Cooper intended it. She's going to have to come up with a better answer than that going forward. That's not going to fly going into the next year. But for yesterday, it was fine. Look, she needs to reinforce her standing among women, and she obviously played that card yesterday. And that was exactly what you saw. But again, that's not an answer that's going to fly in any substantive setting. And we're going to have a lot of those substantive settings going forward, and not just in the next 5 debates, but on the campaign trail. She's going to have to come up with something a little better than that.
Mo, there are a lot of people, men and women alike, who would probably like to elect a woman president, the first woman president in this country's history. Is that something she can rely on for votes?
No, I don't think she relies on it. I think I think it is a point for her to talk about. I think it is a source of pride for her, just as it is for Carly Fiorina on the other side. I mean, I think I'm a Democrat. I think it's remarkable that for the first time in our nation's history, we have 2 very credible women running for president from either side of the aisle. That's fantastic. But that's not it. And I think she talked about it last night, but I don't think she leaned on that overly so. I think she did spend most of her time actually talking about her own background and why she would be a credible champion for everyday Americans, as did Bernie Sanders, as did Martin O'Malley. So it does set her apart, but it's not, I think, the sole crux of her argument here.
The loudest applause of the night, Corey, probably came when Bernie Sanders swatted away the email controversy for Hillary Clinton, saying he was tired of hearing about her emails. But that issue isn't entirely over. I mean, the active investigation by the FBI is still very much underway. How does she deal with that going forward?
I think she deals with it exactly how she said she's dealing with it. Is first, be completely transparent with this investigation as it's ongoing. She's planning to testify before the Benghazi committee. That's coming up very soon as well. So she is completely transparent in how she's dealing and talking about this right now. But absolutely, she got a big assist from Bernie Sanders last night, and rightly so, because there's so many more things that we should be talking about. I mean, as Mo said, the contrast that you saw last night between the Democratic debate and what we've seen in the first 2 primetime debates was startling for Republicans, was startling. And so now the question is, as we go forward, what more can we put on the table? What more meat can Democrats put on the table so that they continue to solidify their base and get ready for this campaign that's coming up very soon?
All right, I need a sort of a 10-second answer from each of you. Imagine you are advising Joe Biden about whether to jump into this race. Julie, what do you tell him to do after last night?
Make a decision. The sooner the better. The door is shutting. I understand the vice president has a lot of personal stuff he has to get through, but it's now or never. Make that decision in the next week or so.
And Corey, what would you tell the vice president?
I think he's the same thing that Julie just said. We have to make a decision. Now is the time, and it's up to you.
All right, let me rephrase the question. Mo, do you tell him we've got good candidates already, stay out?
I tell him, if you believe you're the right person for this right moment in history, then run. But you're running out of time, and every day you wait, the rationale becomes a little bit harder.
The case for his entry in the race did not get any stronger last night. Do you think so, Mo?
Look, there's 2 different cases to be made. One, is he the best candidate? And he's got to make that determination and then try to sell it. The question as to whether or not there's room in this race and whether or not there's a weakness amongst the Democratic field, I don't think that case was made last night. I think Democrats watched that field last night and were pretty happy with the current choices. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to be happy if Joe Biden gets in. I just think last night people were pretty content with the choices they had.
He still has more thinking to do, obviously. Thank you all for joining us.
Thanks.
Mo Elleithee, Corey Elons,
Thank you.
and Julie Roginski. Thanks.